Hi everybody, welcome to the Finance This Property That podcast. My name is Dion Fernandez and I am a mortgage planner and finance professional. My goal is to empower financial legacies for generations, and I look to do this by using my over 13 years experience in finance and having special guest speakers like financial planners, accountants, buyer's agents, family lawyers who are experts in their field to provide knowledge and free education. And without further ado, let's get into our episode today. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Finance This Property That. Today, special guest, we're going to talk about a really hot topic around insurance. Yes, insurance is fun. Lachlan from Austbrokers said that wrong.
Nearly. Austbrokers
Countrywide.
Right.
It makes no sense, but it's a long name. Is here. We're going to talk about the hot topic at the moment around cyber. There's been a lot of cyber attacks, information that's been stolen, and how you as a small business or a big business can look to protect yourself, your clients' data, your data, and be safe overall so that you can have your business doesn't take a back seat. So Lachlan and I both work with very similar types of clients, time poor, industry professionals, business owners. Lachlan works a hell of a lot in the legal profession, especially with barristers and their chambers. But he's also got a really extensive background, which I'm going to let him talk about. In insurance, he's been around for a while. Welcome, Lachlan. Sorry, I ballsed up the business name.
That's right.
It doesn't compute in my head, but no. It's all lovely to have you on. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Dion. Intro, Lachlan Hastings from Austbrokers Countrywide.
At least you got that right.
I like to hope I can get it right.
Yeah.
So about a year ago, I bought into the business. I bought a portfolio of clients off my father. So he was an insurance broker for his whole life. He called me up a couple of years ago and said, "I want to retire. Let's work on an exit plan." And then about 1st of July last year, I took it over. So it's been a really exciting year.
Yeah.
Lots of things have happened. I've learnt a lot about, I suppose, myself and how to do business. Like you said, I'm not just new to insurance. I've been doing it for nearly 15 years. I suppose I started out, I was at uni, and my old man came and sort of pulled me into his business at the time. I was working for him doing sort of a bit of admin work, invoicing, just that sort of thing. And then I suppose I finished uni with a maths and commerce degree, and then sort of forgot to apply for grad jobs in different fields. I didn't really realize that you're supposed to do it nearly a year before you finish. And then ended up taking a full-time job with Dad. Did that for about 2 years. It was really interesting. I got to work with some small business, and I suppose in that space I was doing one of the main client sort of books I was working on was sort of like our pet industry scheme, and it was dog groomers and kennels and dog walkers and those sort of things. It was quite interesting. It was a good foray into learning how to sell insurance to, I suppose, small business and sort of trying to give them ideas on why they need it. I
think with insurance, like you and I have probably taken very similar paths, except that I didn't work. Like no one in my family runs their own mortgage business. So I just fell into it. Right,
yeah.
As more that was, I fell into it out of I never wanted to be writing loans or mortgage. I used to work in a bank, and then now you also worked in corporate as well for a while, didn't you?
Yeah. So after doing that, I got approached by one of the big corporate brokers, and they said, "Come on over, and we'll show you the world." They sold me the dream, and it was great. To be honest, I was there for 8 years, and it was a great place to work. There were some really, really knowledgeable people, and I suppose applied my trade in that. And to be honest, I thought that was my trajectory. So to that, I was sort of trying to build my own name in the industry, and sort of build my own sort of knowledge and reputation, and try and do that. And to be quite upfront, I thought that was my trajectory. I wanted to be corporate broker and sort of see how far that could take me. And to a degree, try and distance myself from the fact I was second generation. And, you know, it's a funny thing in insurance. A lot of people will say they fell into it. But I try and turn the narrative and say I was born into it.
Yeah, quite literally, you were born into it. But I think that's also a good thing, you know. You and I, like I said, very similar paths. You know, you learnt your trade, or you learnt really how to deal with clients' expectations, deadlines, you know, work through a process, because I feel that you'd be very, you know, if very process driven like ourselves, you know what steps need to go where, and you can sort of guide through the journey. But then you've now taken the step, like myself, to being able to relate more to the businesses that you do speak to. And, you know, you say you sell insurance. I don't think you sell insurance at all. I think you sell protection and business continuity. Basically, you know, if you're not working, you're not making money. So that's the way I look at it too.
Yeah, correct. I think you've sort of got to flip it a little bit, and it's not selling insurance. It's a bit more consultancy, where you're providing risk advice and you're providing means of protecting your business from major risks that could completely derail you and you know, kill everything basically in your business. So you're talking to small business owners who've built something from scratch.
Yep.
And you know, they want to keep working and ensuring that their business can continue. But something simple like a fire in their office could completely derail them. And that's something you can quite easily deal with through an insurance policy.
Yeah. And, you know, that's this great segue into, you know, mitigating risk. And one of the biggest, and this is a really hot topic at the moment, is all the cyber attacks that are happening on not small businesses, like large corporations that are getting, you know, hit with data breaches and things like that. You know, and it's not just the banks. We've had valuers hit data breaches, and like you're going to talk about someone in the legal profession hitting data breaches. And, you know, I think it'd be really, it's a really good topic to actually talk about. Yes, insurance is fun. I guess you have insurance never to use it, but it's there as your protection, your backup plan, isn't it? So can you just, I guess, break down what, like we talk cyber insurance, I think that's got a bit of a more broader meaning though, doesn't it? So, you know, what is cyber insurance, and what does it do? Like, how does it de-risk a business? And go from there, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, cyber insurance is a good one. So it's and if you bear with me a little bit, I'll give you a bit of background. So I suppose when I first started out about 15 years ago, there was this relatively new product called cyber insurance. And to be quite frank, no one really knew what it covered, but we were all sort of told to go and sell it. It was a bit of a fries with that type cover. And I suppose in about 2017 or so, I think, there was some changes to privacy legislation where if you were breached, you had to report it. So there was previous to that, there was sort of nothing out there. So there was sort of privacy breach requirements sort of came in around 2017-ish, 2017-18. And that probably was the first real, okay, this is what cyber insurance covers. It helps you cover those breaches. If there's any fines and penalties that come with it, sort of covers that. So everyone sort of understood that a little bit. And that sort of led to a bit of growth in the product, people buying it. And then I suppose the biggest change that came to cyber insurance was, like the rest of the world, we got thrown into turmoil in about 2020. No one could really operate. Everyone was heavily reliant on computers and systems, and there was probably some glaring inadequacies in systems, particularly working from home. This was pretty quickly acted upon by hackers, right? So, so much so that I think they began to see, like, you know, criminal organizations set up hacking corporations, basically. So in warehouses and in high-rise buildings throughout, you know, maybe Russia and some of Asia or whatever, there's basically what would almost mirror a corporate organization with just, you know, computers, hundreds of computers on a floor. And their job was to just hack and you know, shut down systems and demand ransoms. So basically what we had seen was privacy breaches were the main sort of loss in cyber insurance, and then all of a sudden, it just out of nowhere, it was ransomware. So ransomware just took off about 2020.
And then that's the monetary loss as well. That comes with the breach of privacy. It's stacking on top of each other.
Correct. So there was suddenly a ransomware payment. There's a privacy breach. You got third-party cyber liability. So what impact is that breach had on your clients or people's data that you hold? Downtime, like it covers business interruption. So, if your systems are shut down, you can't work, and you miss out on business, and you sort of have a big loss of income. There's a cover in there. So, it's quite a broad cover that it ticks off. But yeah, like you're right, it does stack on top of each other. I saw a few examples recently of cyber attacks, and they very quickly add up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it's can you afford that? Basically,
probably not. If you're a small business, I don't think. Like I said, you don't want to ever have to. We all whinge about paying for insurance, but when push comes to shove, the amount you pay versus the amount it will potentially pay out, it outweighs it. It's just like capital growth in a property.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's and cyber's a little bit of it's a when, not an if, to be honest, in a lot of cases. So, I mean, because there are those organizations out there that just their job is to just hack, and they just have a big list of businesses and entities and domain names, and they just keep going until they find one with a vulnerability, and they just shut it down. They get in your system. They're more advanced than any of the security you can keep up with. But I suppose, back to sort of cyber insurance and how it sort of relate to your business. It really has to be the last, I suppose, port of call on a list of your risk, your risk mitigation and risk management framework, right? So, I suppose at that advent of 2020, when it started taking off, anyone that had a policy, insurers were hemorrhaging claims. They had paying out a huge amount of money, had to quickly work out what they could do to remediate their books. So what they started to do was only sort of offer cover to businesses that had their IT security up to a certain standard. So that was sort of what they started doing. And that was really, at minimum, they needed that multi-factor authentication on your sort of remote access to systems. And that was a hurdle that then, I don't know, you might have sort of noticed it in that sort of 2020 to 22 period that you probably got that code on your phone that you had to use to access your emails. Yep,
all the time.
Yep. Yeah. So that is like one of the minimum things that you need to have in place to buy cyber insurance. There's a few insurers that are starting to ask for more detail. Things like ensuring that you have backups of all your files, that you check it to make sure it works. There's requirements to have sufficient graded antivirus and firewall software kind of thing. Just have all those things in place, then insurers are happy to work with you. Mm-hmm. The other big thing that where claims are coming from is what they call social engineering. So when you're manipulated into changing bank details or paying money to an incorrect account, that's probably where the biggest claims are coming from.
Yeah, I was at an information event for brokers with Macquarie Bank, and they had their head of cyber there as well. And he was telling us about all the different things that AI is coming in. They've emailed hack, like of all the top CEOs, all the really high up in the business, they're sending emails to people in the business saying, you need to wire me this money. And because it's coming from someone with authority, they don't think about it twice. And, it's really, I was saying, if it smells, it's smelly. It's usually smelly.
Yeah.
And but they're so smart. You just see some of the level of sophistication, and you don't even know it's happening half the time.
No, correct. You've got to be on it, and like you said, if it even smells a little bit, then like go and verify.
Yeah.
Like if you get an email from your CEO saying, "Hey, can you change the bank details on this supplier or customer?" Like go and walk over to him and ask him, or pick up the phone and call him and double check.
Yeah.
Came from him. No one's gonna no one's going to sort of get too cranky at you for double checking.
Yeah.
You know, even you see on any lawyers you email, bottom of their signature says, you know, call first if we send you an invoice.
Yeah, well, that's been happening a few times with home loan settlements. The solicitors will send an email saying, this is the information, send this money to this account. And there have been some instances where that's actually been intercepted and hacked. And without, you know, the clients just go, oh, well, this has come from my solicitor. It's a trustworthy source.
Yes.
So they've just gone and paid it. And then the solicitors rung the day before settlement going, where's the payment? It's like, I paid it in here. And they've lost hundreds and thousands of dollars. You know, not just for not checking. So, you know, even Jill was, she's been on this podcast before. She says, we will never get annoyed for someone ringing us just to check that, yes, is this the bank account and verified. When, you know, I sent an invoice out to a client and they rung me and just go, hey, can you just, is this the right? I'm like, perfect. I didn't get upset. It's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? It takes 5 minutes or 2 minutes of my time to verify, yes, it's my account, and they can send the payment through.
Yep.
Like, it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, win for everyone. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just an extra 2-second conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it does sometimes adds up, but no, I think it's worthwhile. And I suppose a top tip for that is make sure you ring a trusted verified number. Don't ring the number on that email or invoice that you get. You know, ring the number you got saved in your phone or Google the number and ask for that person.
Well, hopefully you've saved it in your phone.
So that's often they'll get you that way as well. So they'll be waiting with a spoof number for you to ring.
Change the number.
Yeah. So that's just a top tip to remember as well.
There are actually some really funny reels on like Instagram and mainly Instagram where the guys are actually hacking into the hackers system and then calling the hackers up and like saying that, you know, they've rung them. So I'm from the Social Security, and they're like, oh, what's your name? And they're actually watching them and you can see the reaction on their face being called out. But, you know, that's very rare. But you're right. Like, we can just do just these little small things. It's simple. Yes, it may be frustrating. It's going to take a little bit more time, but you got to put it into a bit of perspective. A little bit of time versus losing tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. What's that? You know, losing the dream house. The business isn't running.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. So, you know, you recently talked about a breach in WA with you know, because you and I both work with the legal profession.
Yeah.
Do you want to just elaborate on that and what happened? You know, what potential consequences that could be, and you know, how they can better protect themselves, or, you know, can't remember if they contacted you or not, or
No, so they didn't directly contact me. Another organisation in WA did, but I believe it was sort of like a law society type association in WA that was hacked, and a lot of the sort of legal professions, they all need to renew their practicing certificates around this time of year. So they would have had a big long list full of all the lawyers or all the solicitors in WA and all their personal contact details. And I believe that was all taken. Now they all also have to pay obviously a fee to be part of that association. And they were concerned that they'd taken bank details and or credit card information from them. Based on the recent reports, I don't think it was, but it's still daunting to understand that your contact details have been taken by hackers, right? So they've now, like, that's how they build their lists of who to go for next, kind of thing. So you know, that association will have costs involved with you know, verifying the attack, trying to run through what they've taken. You know, they'll have to report that breach to the relevant authority, and then there'll be a level of brand management and making sure that fallout isn't catastrophic for that association.
That's the hard part. That's the part that takes the longest, is the reputation to get back.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, part of a cyber policy is a PR response as well. So they will help with that reputation management. Oh. There's organisations that have been set up that are basically incident response. So there's a few really really good organizations that have basically an end-to-end claim service. If you suspect you're being hacked, you call them or you press a button on the app and they're onto it. They'll jump in, they'll verify the attack, they'll send people out to help basically, end-to-end. They'll verify it. They've got ransom negotiators, they've got a remediation team that comes in and helps fix and make sure they can't get back in, fix the vulnerabilities. Got a PR team. It's pretty incredible what's been set up and the response on a cyber policy, to be honest. For me, that's the biggest benefit of it, is just the incident response.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that
Yeah.
it actually extended out that, thing of policy, just, we'll just replace the stuff that's being lost, but there's actually more than just money that needs to be replaced or fixed. So what was the response like from this association?
It only happened last week, so it's very fresh.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a wait to see what level of data they've taken. I'm sure they're still running through that process to sort of understand what the fallout will be.
Yeah.
There was new legislation that came in last week around the same time around what you have to report as well. So they'll probably need to make sure they're up to date with that reporting.
So who has to report that?
It'll be that association. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
okay.
that body will have to then report into the regulatory authority to say we've been breached. If they've paid a ransom, then they'll have to declare what they paid, and potentially if they know where it went, and basically give all the details around what happened. So it's becoming a big sort of regulatory process now if you do get hacked. There are small business exemptions to all those requirements, but the thought process is that that will get reduced down to then being void. Like anyone that gets hacked will have to report it. Is sort of where it's going to get to.
And it makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, because then we provide other protection. People, if you don't know what you don't know, that gives us information to block the next one that comes or be 2 steps ahead potentially. But I guess from where your standpoint, you're talking about a law society, like you deal with a lot of barristers and things like that as well. So in their chambers, how many barristers would be in one chamber potentially for you?
Oh, it's anywhere from a handful to 50 in a chambers. So
Okay.
so what we sort of had to do working with one of the bar associations is we sort of ran through a process of working out how best to insure a barrister for cyber. And it sort of it's tricky, right? Because they're also not lawyers. So we had to sort of run through what their exposures were. They don't have that money changing hand risk like lawyers do. They don't have those trust accounts. So they're all sole traders most of the time, where they might have a assistant or they might have one employee kind of thing, but they're all part of our chambers. And being a sole trader means you ultimately have full responsibility for your own IT security, and you can sort of pick and choose what software or what systems you want to use, whatever you're comfortable with. So a chambers is almost like to put it simply, almost like a WeWork where you rent a room inside a larger office.
Yep.
And that's kind of how that works. They have access to law libraries and sort of clerks and admin teams and stuff, but at their core, they're a sole trader. So what one barrister in the chambers might have in place could be completely different to the barrister next door, in the next door office. So what we sort of had to understand was, because they're all sole traders, they all have different appetite for IT security. We're probably going to have to insure each one individually, because otherwise we're going to have to get a disclosure from every barrister on the floor anyway to build a group policy.
Yeah, an umbrella type policy.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but it would make okay. So would they be sharing the internet connection? Who provides all the IT support?
The chambers often provide a level of IT support.
Yep.
So they might provide an email address, and they might provide Wi-Fi in the office kind of thing. So again, it sort of depends on the setup they've got, and again, that's quite broad, right? So you could provide go to woe. Like some of them could even provide computers and setup and all that sort of stuff. So you're almost like an employee in an organization.
Yep.
But most of them don't. Most of them are. You choose what sort of operating system you want, how you want to operate. If you want if you want to use Apple or Mac, Apple Macs or Microsoft, you can do whatever you want. You can use OneDrive or Dropbox or whatever sort of filing system you want. It's up to the barrister. So because it's so diverse, we just said, let's just build a little policy for each barrister that provides a good cover for a good price. And we'll try and really simplify down the requirements we need them to have from an IT security so that they can buy a policy basically.
Yep.
So
did you find them quite responsive to that? Because this may be different to what they were doing before.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, I was down in Sydney on Friday, had a sort of roundtable discussion with one of the chambers down there, and they were all very interested in how it works. And it's I suppose the education piece is still what we're working on. So, you know, how they can get in, how hackers can get in, what they can take, what the impacts to the each barrister's practice individually. You know, having a think about improving IT security, because ultimately that should be what you spend your time and money on to start with. Because that should be at the top of your risk management framework, is improving your IT security basically.
Yeah. And I guess that's where it all comes in and it goes out of, right? It goes into the computer, it goes out of the computer. Yeah. And I guess if you're running your own individual business within the workplace, it would make more sense, because then, you know, you're not, if you have an umbrella and if something happens to one person, it affects everyone. Well, how's that? Like the distribution of who it affects, and it affects more than one person, right?
Yeah.
So if you just take your own risk on, it affects it, and then that policy can protect. Whereas, does that make sense? I don't think I'm making sense there, but maybe.
No, it does, because if you've got 10 barristers in a chamber, say, and you know one has really good IT security and one doesn't, and the one that doesn't, he gets hacked. Yeah. You know how insurance policies work. There's going to be a claim on that policy next year. They're all going to be paying a bigger premium. So if we have 10 different policies, sort of the risks spread a little bit.
Well, you're assessing 10 different types of risk.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And then, you know, the guy with the good risk, with the good IT security, he might get a better price than the one that doesn't. And then, you know, he's protected at the end of the day. If there's a sort of wider hack, he might not get hacked because he's got better protection. So it's all those kind of things that you sort of got to work through. And yeah, we just sort of said, let's keep it individual, and then everyone will be happy. And if you did get a chambers that they all work on the same systems and they all have the same security, then we could maybe see if there's a package deal we can do them.
Yeah, but I think it makes more sense doing it that way. Yeah, and that way you're actually de-risking the whole chamber. Yeah, and then you're individually de-risking everyone else from everyone else. So no, that's really cool. And I guess that's where the value of sitting down with someone like yourself and just talking through the different options, and you take the time to understand how the place works. You've seen how different, because you've been to, obviously every chamber does things differently. You've seen what works, what's not. So you can get the best of both worlds, like what's worked and maybe don't do this because this is what I've seen in the past. So you can add that extra bit of knowledge, and that trusted advisor piece really then will come out when you're making those recommendations. And, you know, just like the barristers are trusted advisors in their legal streams, you are the trusted advisor for them and to protect their businesses as well.
Yeah, that's what I try to do is, like I said, I try not to sell insurance. I try to provide advice around, you know, what policies you should think about holding and what risks they cover. So it's more about, you know, they call it a risk transfer methodology. So it's how you can transfer the risk away from your balance sheet onto an insurer's balance sheet. And then you pay a small premium to do so. Yep. So it's less about, I'm trying to flog an insurance product because I make a buck out of it. It's I try to care, you know, I try to care about what we're doing. So if you can protect someone's livelihood, then, you know, I feel like you've done a good job.
Yep, exactly. So bit of information that we've given. I think this is a very hot topic. We can go on and on about it, but can you give us, just to recap, your top 3 tips for businesses to protect themselves and protect themselves, client information, and keep their businesses going from cyber? What's the 3 easiest things they can do right now?
3 easiest ones. Have a chat to your IT provider, see what security you can improve. They can run a vulnerability test, see if there's any patches they need to make.
Social hacking.
Yep.
Is that what they call it?
Put in place callback methods for changing bank details or new invoices. Very simple one you can do to avoid losing money.
Make it a standard operating procedure.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then once you've got all your IT security up to a point you're happy with, then you come talk to me. We can buy a cyber insurance policy.
Yep. And I think that's the key. You get all your ducks lined up. You don't know what you don't know. Some people say, "Oh yeah, I think I've got a really good IT," but when was the last time you even spoke to them? Just sitting in the background. I know that at Emerge we use John Cruz IT, and he goes, "I already know what's going on before you know what's going on." So it's great, and it's really good to have that. I don't even think about it because I know. And we can see all the spam emails coming, and they're very responsive, and they're proactive as opposed to reactive. And I think that's really key.
The other point is a lot of the insurers we work with, they actually offer more than just an insurance policy as part of their service. So one of the big ones I work with, they do it's part of the quoting process. So before they're even a client, they'll run a vulnerability scan and they'll send us the report, which we can provide free of charge. And then once you've signed on, they'll provide training modules, so phishing training for your business. So they're very much about not just being there at the end. They want to be there at the start to help protect the business and make sure that you're improving security as well. So, it's proactive. It's a proactive approach to risk management, and that's sort of what we're aiming for. Yeah,
that's good. That's very, very different to any other insurer. I've never heard of an insurer wanting to help you before they help you before they even give you the policy. I guess that's very proactive. That's very,
correct. So there's a few providers that I really like working with because they do provide those services in addition to.
Because if you think about a small business, they don't really know all that much.
No,
about
correct.
It. It's not
so it's a report that you can then send to your IT guy and go, "Can you help me make these critical ones safe?"
If you have an IT guy, I can guarantee a lot of people don't. They just get it and do it. But all good. Look, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll have you back on to talk about a few other things because you're very across the construction industry as well. So I do a lot of developments. I've got a lot of developers and also people that run construction businesses, civil engineering, things like that as well. So I think there's definitely another episode
Lots
there.
of hot topics.
Lots of hot topics there. I know we've had a quick chat, but if someone wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that? I
don't know. You can find details. I'm sure will be available wherever this is posted.
Yes. Yeah. In the show notes.
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm got an Instagram handle.
What's the Instagram handle?
I couldn't tell you. I think it's LH Insurance Broker or something, but I'll let you know.
We may need to improve your Instagram game. Get you on TikTok. I know a guy in the office that will help with that.
Okay.
What about website?
Yes, it's the AB Countrywide is the group I'm a part of at the moment. So I suppose, from the top, I'm an authorised rep for the Austbrokers Countrywide. I sort of run with them. They're a larger brand, I suppose, that I'm a part of, but I own my own portfolio as part of that. So
awesome.
We'll, we can. They've got a team of people that are all knowledgeable as well, which is great that I can tap into if there's ever something I don't know.
Awesome. Also, everyone, the information on this podcast, just got to make sure that you all know it's very general in nature, doesn't take into consideration your current circumstances. If you are a small business owner, you are a time-poor industry professional, small business owner, in the legal profession, accounting, any financial planning, medical even, because there's lots of data breaches there too that can happen. I think let's go back, listen to those 3 tips. Go back to your IT, figure out where all the holes are, patch them up, and then obviously also speak to Lachlan all at the same time to talk about how you can better protect yourself, your business, and ultimately your clients. Again, very general in nature, doesn't take into consideration any of your personal circumstances. If you want to talk about insurance, go straight to Lachlan, very easy to find. If you want to talk finance, come and see me. And then, obviously you've got insurance. I can refer you on to Lachlan. On social media, at Dion Finance Specialist on Instagram, LinkedIn. Dion Fernandez is really, really easy to find. And the new podcast website, www.financespropertythat.com.au. Thanks for listening. Until next time, see you then.